And hey, what they're also doing now, before most of them can even leave the hospital, is parents are intimidated about the hepatitis B vaccine. And when parents ask me about it, I tell them, hey, you know what? Look up how you get hepatitis B. I'm not planning on having those type of bad behavior people watch my child or spend time with my child. So look up what hepatitis B, who gets that. So I'm, the best way for parents to be able to stand up and make an informed decision is start doing your homework and start looking up what immunizations do. One great website to go to is Mercola.com, Mercola, Dr. Mercola, MD. Do some searching on immunizations on there. He'll tell you the real raw truth, whether you want to hear it or not, or whether you want to read it or not. But he'll tell you the truth, and there's plenty of it that you can search on his website. The other thing here with, so the child is born, and before you know it, they're instantly assaulted with an antibiotic. Each year, 1 in 5 Americans takes a course of the well-known Z-Pak. That's formerly known as azithromycin. Besides getting antibiotics from our doctors, we're exposed to them in the food. The livestock are fed antibiotics. All livestock, the cattle, the chickens, pigs, lambs, they're all given antibiotics in their feed. And then a lot of the feed, the majority of all the feed is genetically modified. So, unfortunately, the antibiotics that we get through the beef, pork, and poultry have the same effect on us that they do on the animals. The findings with H. pylori. H. pylori is something that causes all of this heartburn and stomach problems. H. pylori is a bacteria, and we have a product that will kill the H. pylori, and this is what causes the ulcer. It's the ulcer bacteria. The H. pylori bacteria eventually can lead to like stomach cancer or a cancer of the small intestine. So it's a very serious bacteria. It is what causes ulcers. And this particular bacteria can be killed naturally without having to do a lot of rounds of antibiotics. Yes.
May I add something to this little conversation? Because you mentioned chicken, right? And chicken is one of my favorite things. Okay, so, but it's disgusting to me with the American big chicken companies, how they raise their chickens. And if you've noticed in the packs that you'll get real nice, real fat chicken, like nice breasts, nice backbones, and but then their legs are
puny.
And then sometimes there's 3 of them. It's like, wait a minute, what? How can that be?
Yeah.
But because what they do is that those antibiotics and those all the genetically modified, what they're doing is they're taking a chick and they're raising it and getting out in the store in 16 weeks. So they need to beef that chicken up as much as possible. So what happens is that the body will grow, but the legs cannot grow as fast as the body does. So you'll get a lot of like chickens that are in there with broken legs or just cannot walk because their bodies have outgrown them. And it's quite disgusting, actually, when you really think about it,
Well, it's like I've said before, it's like, we look at these chicken breasts, and it's like, this is a chicken breast? It looks like a turkey breast. This is chicken?
Right.
It's like, it's a chicken, on steroids. That's what you're finding. If you're not buying chicken that is naturally raised, range, cage-free, out there, just living on the farm and living on bugs and worms the way that they were intended to eat, the foods that they were to eat. That's another thing that my friend at double-L-countrystore.com, she raises a lot of meat chickens, and they are all organically raised. And, they are chickens the way we remember chickens when, if you're my age, you'd remember that chickens did not have chicken breasts that look like turkey breasts. And the other thing is all that yellow fat. That's arsenic. And they put arsenic in the food to kind of like sedate the chickens from otherwise, and they cut their beaks off. They cut their beaks off and they give them arsenic. And that yellow deposit in that fat on the chicken is arsenic deposits because it goes to the fatty tissue. But they cut the beaks off and they give them the arsenic because if they didn't cut the beaks off, the chickens in those close quarters that they're raised in, they would peck each other to death. They would kill each other.
Wow! So
because of it's such a stressful environment. It's just like if you ask a hunter. If a hunter's got to shoot an animal and chase it down and shoot it 2 or 3 times, there is a difference in that meat.
Yes.
Than an animal that upon, surprise was instantly one shot, one kill and dropped.
Right.
That meat is very tender. The meat where the animal, where you didn't get a good shot the first time and you got to shoot it 2 or 3 times and you got to chase the animal down, that meat is tough.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. Oh, yes. It's stringy. It's full of adrenaline. That animal was in a panic. The adrenal glands ended up dumping so much cortisol in there that it made the meat and adrenaline made the meat tough.
Wow.
So, these chickens, the way that these commercial chickens are raised is in very cramped quarters, and they give them the arsenic to keep them, because of the central nervous system. I mean, arsenic poisoning. Arsenic and lace, yeah. It's slowly but surely it'll kill you. Then we ingest it, and this has to be, it's got to all be processed through the liver. And so, I can't encourage you enough to eat naturally raised meat. If you're going to eat animal protein, make sure that it's naturally raised. Make sure that there's not been hormone added to their feed. No immunizations if they're naturally raised. And animals that are sick and need to have antibiotics, usually, people who are into natural raising, they will separate and they'll tag that ear so that they know that animal had some antibiotics, because somebody will come along that maybe isn't as particular as somebody who knows what I know can be. And they'll be happy to buy that animal that had antibiotics. But the thing is that this is also, you need to understand that all of these hormones that are put into these animals. Look at I look at my 16-year-old granddaughter, who is absolutely gorgeous, and but, hey, as compared to some of the 16-year-old girls you see nowadays and some of the 12-year-old girls you see nowadays, right. You think my gorgeous Gina was a late bloomer. I mean, she's not. She's beautiful, but, this is a kid who's not been inoculated, who hasn't been filled full of foods that have had hormones and stuff added to it. And, she has enjoyed, for the most part, a very clean diet. My 8-year-old granddaughter got one look at what the school menu was. Well, hey, Grandma packed her a lunch all last week. She will not eat that food that is at the school. And then
so your granddaughter might have been called a late bloomer, but she was actually right on time compared to the others.
She was, because we look at some of these girls nowadays that are
Oh, yes.
12 and 13 years old, and it's like, oh my gosh, what has this poor child been fed? I mean, look at this 12, 13-year-old girl. She looks like she's 20, you know, and sorry, you know, that is not the way it was supposed to be. So we are seeing cause and effect of what is fed to the animal, what's crop tested on the food, and we're seeing it in all of these diseases that are on the rise. We're seeing it in just this maturity at such an early age, and it's the synthetic hormones.
Oh, sure.
And you know what you're going to deal with those synthetic hormones is you're going to deal with displaced amount of real naturally, you know, that your body has made hormones at receptor sites. So, you know, you're going to deal with, you know, breast issues. You're going to deal with infertility problems. You're going to deal with ovary problems. You're going to deal with uterine problems. The boys are going to deal with not only testicular cancers and abnormalities, but, you know, it used to be that breast cancer was the number one cancer with women. Breast cancer in men exceeds testicular cancer.
Wow.
So men get breast cancer as well as women.
Sure. Oh,
you
yes.
know, and it is on the rise, and it does have to do with microwaving your food in plastic and styrofoam. It does have to do with all of the chemicals and stuff, the barrage of chemicals that are all over the food supply. It does have to do with the antibiotics and hormones and stuff that are put into the meat. So I will tell you this, you're going to pay for your health one way or the other. You are either going to continue eating poorly, eating whatever, feeding your children and grandchildren and yourself, whatever. You will deal with the emergency room. You will deal with having to have insurance because, you know, you're going to need that insurance because, hey, you know, it's mighty expensive to go to the hospital and have a stay.
All right. Well, thank God for Obamacare. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, there are people who are happy. And, you know, so the thing is that the other way that you're going to pay for it is in chronic illness. And funerals are not cheap. I mean, you know, more and more people are going to cremation because, you know, it's $20,000 now to have a traditional funeral. So, or you're going to pay for your health by spending 50 to 75 cents or a buck more a pound for something that's certified organic. You're gonna pay for good health by spending a little bit of that money now every week when you go to the grocery store and you're buying good quality food for your family. The other way that you're going to pay for it if you eat indiscriminately and you eat whatever, you know, you are going to pay for it in degenerative disease. You're going to pay for it in high premiums. You're going to pay for it in funerals. You're going to, and you know what, really and truly, if you do not have your health, you do not have anything. You just don't. Ask anybody who's sick.
Right.
Anybody who is sick. And if they're sick long enough, they do give up on living. And
yes, they do.
They would much rather die than continue living the way that they live. So,
and unfortunately, I just had a friend that was in that very same exact boat 2 years ago, and he's no longer with us just because he was in that frame of mind.
Yeah. When you're so sick that you have lost your way and you do not know how to regain your health back, there are people who opt out. You know, if there was a little box to check mark it, you know, opt out, and this can be done very quickly, they would rather it go that way. But so it's wiser to either way, like I said, either way you're going to pay for it. You're